Hello and welcome to this week where we're considering what the early Buddhist tradition considers the primary hindrances, obstacles to meditation practice. And these five are also, many of us can recognize them as one of the primary maybe obstacles, challenges that we face in our daily life as well. So first ones are desires, sensual desires in particular, or a certain kind of greed, avariciousness, wanting something so desperately. And the second is ill will, aversion, wanting something to go away or to be destroyed or not exist, and with a certain degree of ever slight animosity. And both of these, desire and aversion, anger, for example, are energizing. And there can be even a sense of pleasure in the energy of life, the energy of being vigorous and engaged, and some people maybe even part of their addiction to anger and maybe desire is how it helps them feel alive, and therefore that they count, that they're valuable, that there's purpose or something. The next hindrance is usually translated as sloth and torpor, and I'll talk more about this later, and maybe that these might not be the best translations, or there might be alternatives that are interesting to look at. But this is where the life energy dissipates, where the caffeine of the soul, desire and aversion, is no longer there. And without that caffeine, there can be withdrawal, there can be dullness, torpor sets in, complacency, a kind of giving up. And that can happen if things are comfortable in meditation, the complacency of pleasure, of bliss, and we stop engaging in the mindfulness because we're just enjoying it in a way that certain vitality dissipates, the vitality of the inspiration of, okay, I'm here, fully here. And it can be complacency, it can just be a shutting down, it could be of no longer kind of applying ourselves to what we're doing because we're enjoying it. And it could also be the shutting down from it's too difficult, that I'm discouraged, I'm bored, and this is not really doing me much good, and I'd rather be doing something exciting, follow the dictates of my desires and aversions. And so there's a shutting down. So one of the things we want to do as we meditate is to notice the ebbs and flows, and I use that word carefully, the ebbs and flows of the vitality or the energy that we are engaged in as we meditate. We don't want to have too much, and we don't want to have too little. Just in the middle, just right. Just right means there's no striving, there's desires haven't, clinging desires, greed, or pushing hasn't taken over. At the same time, giving up hasn't taken over, shutting down or getting too calm and too complacent hasn't taken over. Just the right amount. And it doesn't have to be so dramatic how much that is, but I don't know what a good example for you is, but in the best circumstances, when you're not really tired, the kind of alertness you need to drive a car on the freeway where it's not so much traffic, but you have to constantly stay present. And you can't shut down, you can't drift off. Or taking an exam that you really know the subject well, so it's not like a strain, but you have to stay present and alert. So you can be relaxed, but also alert. But continuously, it's just right. So what I'm suggesting for this meditation is to watch the ebbs and flows of the energy, the level of engagement you have with the practice, and see if, just to see how it shifts and changes. Maybe not try too hard to get it just right. Be content that you're kind of gently swinging just past the center. And maybe occasionally you feel I have it right, but just watch the ebbs and flows of your engagement. So to assume a meditation posture and gently close your eyes. And just straight off, feel the vitality or the energy level in your body, whatever it might be, low or high, medium. And there might be in any single person's body different parts of the body with different degrees of vitality. And we might over-identify where it's most energized, active, or least. See if you can find some place in your body where the sense of vitality, engagement is medium, middle. Maybe it's the effort to keep your lower back upright, or the sensations of your arms positioned in your meditation posture. Or maybe there's something at the base of the stomach that seems like it's alive and vital, the vitality there. But it contains no striving, no complacency, it's just there. And in the same way, there might be in your mind, your awareness, different degrees of energy or engagement. Some things arise and your mind is straining and pushing, or alarmed, energized, excited. Other things happen and you're discouraged, deflated, or you just love just to settle back and float and almost drift off. Can you find that place in the mind? Find something you're aware of right now that's medium, just balanced. No excitement, but no deflation. Easy to be aware. Maybe the tingling in your fingers. The contact of your hands against some other part of your body. Maybe the beginning of the inhale, the beginning of the exhale. So notice as we continue now in silence, the ebbs and flows of how energized you are in practicing mindfulness, without being concerned that what you're doing is right or wrong. Just see clearly how it is. And if you find the medium, trust that. Trust being with that for as long as you can. as you're practicing now, is your mindfulness compromised by desires, by aversions, or with a shutting down, giving up, letting go? That is, letting go into torpor, complacency. Where is the middle way in engaging mindfulness? And as we come to the end of this sitting, considering the end of the sitting and the next time you'll get up and go out into the world where being the presence of other people, what occurs to you? Does that activate more the realm of desires, wanting something? More the realm of aversion, not wanting something? Or does it awaken the opposite of awakening? Does it shut you down? Do you freeze? Something of you sinks? Something of you shuts down? Maybe from overwhelm, or maybe from boredom. But if you're able to gaze upon the world with the middle way, without the strain of any desire, without the strain or tension of any aversion, just gaze upon the world kindly. Gaze upon the world with aliveness, vitality, clarity. Neither wanting or not wanting, except to see clearly. Be still and gaze upon the world kindly. Let your awareness be calm and settled, so that your heart's well-wishing, your heart's ability for friendliness and kindness can be expressed or come alive through these words. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. Thank you. So, hello and welcome to this third talk on the hindrances, the 5 hindrances. Today we do the third hindrance. And the hindrances are that which compromises our capacity for a useful engagement with our activities, whatever we do, whether it's meditation or life itself in other ways. And I use the word engagement because being mindful is also an engagement. It's something is activated or comes alive when we're mindful. And to only associate mindfulness with calm might actually encourage a kind of dullness in the mindfulness. It's possible to get over calm. And but to associate mindfulness with making effort for some people means that we're trying too much, we're straining, or we're agitated in a certain kind of way. And so this classic metaphor in Buddhism of the middle way, that where's that middle? And so in terms of the 5 hindrances, the first 2, greedy desire, compulsive desire, clinging desire, and then hostile aversion. That these kind of desire and aversion are both energizing. And some people, even if they're really hostile, love to be hostile and angry because now they feel truly alive. And otherwise they don't feel much. Maybe they feel unworthy or dull or bored or something. And being angry just makes them feel kind of like energized, and they feel so, that's what they're attached to, not necessarily the aversion, but being energized, they love it. Or same thing with desire, that sometimes with fantasies of different types, it might be a pleasant fantasy, but of desire, but it's the sense of coming alive and what it does in the body and the feelings, and that we feel like there's purpose and meaning. And sometimes people spend a lot of time in fantasy because there's a pleasure of feeling alive. And some people, it kind of operates as kind of caffeine of the soul, aversion and desire. Caffeine of, it's kind of a caffeinated thing where we're using something to keep us energized that's not really natural in a certain kind of way. And and so when we find ourselves no longer caught in desires and aversion, in meditation, some people don't know how to be alive, energized, engaged without desire and aversion. And so there can be a dullness that sets in. There can be a kind of withdrawal, caffeine withdrawal, and it can be awkward in a time of boredom and feeling dull and feeling maybe headachy or feeling kind of uncomfortable. And it's very important to realize that just like with withdrawals from caffeine, it takes a while to kind of work it through the system. That the withdrawal from desires, a life of constant desires or constant aversions or both, there's a period of withdrawal, awkwardness for a little while, and we don't know quite what foot to stand on, or we feel dull or bored, or we feel shut down or something, discouraged even. And so we have to kind of have the wisdom to know how to go through that. So the third hindrance is usually translated as sloth and torpor. And these are English words that probably I never used until I came to the Vipassana tradition and teachers were using them for this third hindrance. And it's not the same thing as tiredness. And physical and mental tiredness can come from overexertions, come from just not having slept enough. And that can have a big effect on meditation as well. And there you have to be careful that maybe it's more important to take a nap than it is to meditate. If people who are sleep deprived, it's probably better to sleep than to meditate. But ideally, you get enough sleep, and then you can meditate without that kind of dullness that's there, sleepiness. Some people, however, when they're sleepy but can't sleep, find that meditation helps. That settles something so they can go to sleep. But so sleepiness is not sloth and torpor. Sloth and torpor is a psychological condition that compromises our capacity to be mindful in a balanced, engaged way. And there's a variety of things that can do that. One is, as I said, the withdrawal symptoms of no longer being caught up in desires and aversions. Sometimes it's because the meditation is going well, and we're getting fairly concentrated and calm, but we're getting too calm. And so the mind is kind of going into a dreamlike state. If there's a lot of dreamlike images and things feel basically pleasant in meditation, then that's people get complacent. They get kind of lulled into kind of a kind of dreamlike state. That's usually a sign that there's not enough engagement, not enough vitality in the mindfulness. And then the art is to turn the dial a little bit, just enough to get that engagement, bring in more clarity, more active recognition, and really seeing what's happening in a little bit more kind of energized way. Sit up straighter. Sometimes it's enough for people. Maybe do walking meditation instead of sitting meditation. And so the imbalance of energy and calm is, sometimes it's called concentration and energy. Another reason for this sloth and torpor is it's a kind of variation of aversion. We don't like what's happening, and so we want to kind of there's aversion for sure, but it manifests as a shutting down. We're getting really tired and dragging our feet, and you can see this in spades sometimes in young children, where they'll and I remember very well how I did that with my mother when she pulled me through department stores, and when I was young, and I just really disliked it, and even the smell of them, would kind of set me off, as this is associations I had. And I would drag my feet and tell my mother how tired I was, and how hard it was, and I must have been miserable for my mother to be with me the way I was so tired. And then all she had to do was say, "Let's go get some ice cream," and boy, the tiredness just vanished. And then then it was worthwhile being alive. So it was a kind of a resistance to tiredness, and a strategy of aversion. And so sometimes, but sometimes this sloth and torpor can be, what's called sloth and torpor, can be a shutting down out of fear or shock. And it turns out that the first word that we translate as sloth, if you go and look in the Pali English dictionaries, one of the meanings that they give is rigidity. And this I think works really well for some of the compromising ways in which we are trying to meditate. We are compromised in meditation, and that is fear can operate in such a strong way that we shut down. We freeze. We don't know what to do. We just kind of maybe even give up or something. And that's what compromising awareness is, a kind of rigidity or freezing up or dullness, and that is a response to things being overwhelming. And that can also happen in meditation, because sometimes meditation is kind of like taking the lid off Pandora's box of our emotional life. There's a lot of unresolved emotions that exist within us. And meditation, as we quiet down, the active way in which we keep them repressed or keep ourselves avoiding them can slow down, can quiet, and then these deeper well springs of the anger or the grief or the despair that we might have shows itself, and that can be overwhelming. And so then people will shut down, and some people will shut down so thoroughly that they kind of not really even aware of what's going on. And they might believe that they're meditating well because nothing really happens, until the end of the sitting, and they hardly knew where they were during the sitting. And so they think, oh, well, boy, that was fast, or boy, that was, I must have been deep in meditation or something. So a shutting down, a freezing. And so all these things that go on And then, then one more thing, reason for sloth and torpor is actually bliss. Some people get such joy and well-being and happiness in meditation that they bask in it. They kind of give up their energy. They kind of lean back and just kind of indulge in it in such a way that the mindfulness goes out the window. And then there's even no desire to kind of be mindful anymore, but things are really dull, just kind of, and a certain kind of dullness, because we're just kind of basking in the sun of the bliss that might be there. So all these things need respect. All these things need to be care and love. Anything that fits in the category of sloth and torpor, rigidity, freezing up, all these things are not enemies. And there's no need to be afraid of them, but we need to become wise about them, and to understand exactly, kind of a little bit understand why sloth and torpor has come up, and because simply kind of increase the level of energy or engagement that we want to do might not be the appropriate thing for some of the reasons for sloth and torpor. And so it might be that we want to stop our meditation if we're really afraid, and that's why we're freezing up. And maybe do walking meditation, maybe just to walk gently around the block. So there's a different context for feeling what's going on, that we don't feel trapped by it. Meditations, for some people feel trapped. But if they're walking around, they might be willing to kind of be present for what's happening in an easier way. Or maybe even meditation's counterindicated if we're up against some really deep challenge, and we have to be really careful and considerate of what's the best way to appropriately address the reason for the freezing up that might be going on. But in the bigger picture, what we're aiming towards over time is to dial up the efforting, the energy, the vitality, just enough so that we feel engaged in the mindfulness, but not tired. Engaged in awareness. So it's not we're not caught in desires, not caught in aversions, but just that middle way that's sustainable. And so it might be that, it's just you feel tired, you feel like you don't have much energy, but you turn the corner and there, lo and behold, in some big parking lot nearby, there's never before event, there's a circus has come to town, and you've never seen such a thing. And now, you're just kind of amazed, and you're just kind of in a relaxed way. You're not tired at all anymore. You're just kind of like, wow, you're present to study the colors of the tents and I don't know what. I don't know if my examples are the right ones for you for this middle way of dialing up the energy when there's sloth and torpor, but that's the goal. And sometimes we can do it directly, and sometimes we take our time as we address what's going on in an appropriate way. So for today, what I'd recommend is that what I did in the guided meditation, is that the ebbs and flows of how engaged, how present, how clear our mindfulness is, has a lot to do with whether we're caught in desires or aversions, or whether we're caught in sloth and torpor. And to watch the ebbs and flows and see what is compromising your mindfulness. And is it desire, is it aversion, or is it a kind of shutting down, or a giving up, or a complacency? All of the above can operate. But watch the ebbs and flows. That's the assignment, if you want to, for the next 24 hours. So, thank you. And we'll continue with the hindrances tomorrow.